Video that will hopefully help you with your NEA a little bit if you are a computer science student, especially if you are looking at using databases for your project. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here is talk you through how to create a simple table. I will eventually show you how you can do a database that has multiple tables linking together, but it's important you have the basics first. So let's go through import SQLITE3. We're going to use this library. Now, some students use Alchemy. Now, the problem with that is it does a lot of the heavy weight for you in that the database is set up via you dragging and dropping and creating all of your tables. But if you want to get some good credit and show that you know what you're doing, you want to do this yourself. So in this case, what we're going to do today is I'm going to create my student table, all right? So this is basically the structure of the table. So I'm going to do this by doing 3 sets of brackets. Okay, so I'm going to use 3 sets of speech marks, and then inside is where you create all the SQL code. You can do that by doing Shift 222. So anything inside here now is the SQL code. So first of all, you need to create table if not exists. So that will basically create the new table if you've not created one within your database. So I'm going to call the table name students and open my brackets. Now, on the line below, I'm going to start student ID, integer, primary key, and auto increment, not null. Okay, now that there is going to create a random number. So it will start counting from 1, and every time you add a new student to that, that is going to increment by 1. All right, now our next bit is going to be student name. And we're going to create that with text, student age, integer, and last but not least, student subject text. You do not need a comma at the end of that. The comma tells you that another field is coming. So if you have finished, you just finish there. I'm going to close my bracket, and that is the code of your query. Okay, this is be beneficial for you to make sure you understand this for your actual exam as well, because there is a lot of SQL code in there. Now, that on its own is not going to do anything. That is just the query. That's all it does. It just it's a query to create a table. Okay, I say query, it's SQL code. Now, what I need to do is establish a connection to a database. Now, to do this, I create something called a connection object, and I use SQLITE3.connect. Going to open up brackets there and then give it a name. So I'm going to say student log.sqlite. You can use .db, whatever you like, but to work with a database, I'm just going to use SQLite in this. Now I've got cursor object equals connection object dot cursor. All right. Now the idea of using the cursor is so that you can execute SQL commands. In order to actually execute SQL commands, you need to have cursor before, because now what that does, so I've established the connection. Now what I do is go cursor underscore object. I can now do .execute, and inside that you can tell it the code that you want it to do. So I'm going to say create student table. Now, what you always need to do is save. So connection object dot commit. Okay, that's going to save it, and then I can go connection underscore object dot close. That now closes that database for you. Now, if I run that, so let's run that, you'll notice nothing happens. And that's because we've not added any data to it. We've not retrieved anything. So let me start off by creating a number of fields here. So I'm going to go student name 1 equals Ray Chambers. Student age 1 equals 38. Student subject 1 equals computer science. Now, you'll notice that I've imported time up here. Now, what you can do is create timestamps, and what some people may have done in the past is created a timestamp equals int time dot time, so that they can put it into the database and compare when data was added or deleted and remove the most up-to-date version. So it's possible to do that. That's the only reason I have put the import time there. So I'm not going to use that today, but it's just there to show you that you can do it. Now I need to create my query that's going to get this data. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create, much like the query up here, so that's create student table, and this is going to be called insert student query. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go again. 1, 2, 3. Now, inside, I'm going to need to go insert into, and make sure that is case sensitive. Was it called students? Yes, it was. So insert into students, open my brackets. What I want to do is student name. That's the first parameter going in. Student age and student subject. Now, those are the three parameters. If you look here, I've got student name, age, and subject. You will notice that I do not need to add in the student ID because that is automatically created. Now, as a security value, we use parameters in our queries to stop people from doing SQL injections. This is what I'm doing here. I do values, so I've closed that. All right. Values, I'm going to have 3 parameters that go in. All right, so each of these will represent each piece of data that goes into this. So once you've done that, I've now got my insert query, but I want to run it. Okay, what I've got to do is actually pass in that data. Well, what I've got to do with that, to pass that data in, what we're going to do is create, we're going to go with SQLITE3.connect. I need to open up the database again, studentlog.sqlite. Okay, I'm going to use that this time. So that now opens up the connection as connection underscore object. Now what I can do is run the query. So again, cursor object equals connection underscore object dot cursor. Now I can run the query cursor underscore object dot execute, and inside this you say insert underscore student underscore query, comma, and you pass your 3 parameters in. This is where these 3 parameters go, so they are passed in here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say student name 1, comma, student age 1, comma, student subject 1. So these match these. Now what that should now do is add in my name to the table, unless there is a syntax error, in which case we will fix that. So let's run it. So that's now been added in. If I add it in again, it will add it in a second time and a third time. Now, if you don't believe me, this is where we're going to do the SQL code now to actually view it. So I'm going to say show all, not shall, show underscore all underscore students equals 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And what I'm going to do is a really simple query, select all, which is a star, from students. That's my query, nice and simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to need to go with SQLite again. I'm just going to copy this because I want to open it up. I haven't made any changes, so I don't need to commit them. All right, so I've got that code. But what I want to do is run the code. So cursor underscore object dot execute. And this time around, I'm going to execute show all students. Now, I haven't got any parameters to pass in, so we're just going to run this query. Show all students. Okay? Now, what that's not going to do is actually give us any data. All right? Not yet. What I got to do is move it into either, you might say records. So I'm going to say records equals cursor object dot fetch all. What that now does is when this query was ran, all of that data was stored into the cursor object. So what I'm going to do here is fetch all of those rows. Now I can say for data in records, I can now say print data. Let's see what it's done. That's probably going to add me one more time here. Can you see that the original database already had a table in it? So those were added in, and the 3 times that I've ran my code today, the record has continued to add. Now if I change that again, I'm going to change that to Harry Houdini. I don't know, how old would he be now? I'm just going to say magic. And when I run it, you can see the next person is added, and that's auto incremented. Now, if you want to, and it depends on your version of SQLITE, you can actually put the word strict in your query if you want to research that. That works on some languages, but not all versions of SQLITE, I should say. So what some people do after their query, apologies, is they put the word strict here. Okay, if you've got a newer version of SQLITE, that will make sure that the data that goes in is the correct data type. Unfortunately, that doesn't work on all of them though. So I hope that that video is useful for getting you to grips with creating a simple database with SQLITE3 and Python. I will show you another video shortly that is much longer that will show you how to create a relational database. Thank you for watching.